Happy New Year, everybody. We hope everyone had a great New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and that you all enjoyed part one of our conversation with Tom Gross looking back at 2024. On this, the second part of the three-part series, Caleb, Luke, Tom, and I go over our favorite albums, favorite songs, and favorite sports moments of last year. So buckle up, enjoy, and hey, Lucia!
Punch it to me!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Colby Cast, where we dive into movies,
21 gigawatts!
TV,
Sometimes I'll start a sentence, and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
and everything in between.
Well, I don't know how you get a podcast, but you should look into it.
I'm Colby, and I'm joined by my two awesome sons, Caleb
I don't know how to tie my shoes.
and Luke.
I never shut up.
Together, we're your friendly neighborhood pop culture nerds, here to share our thoughts on Star Wars, Marvel, the latest entertainment news, and maybe even some sports.
You believe in miracles? Yes!
So grab a piece of cake
Cake! Everybody loves cakes.
and find a comfy spot on the couch, because this is your place for community and conversation about pop culture and storytelling.
What an incredible smell you've discovered.
Unless there are any final thoughts on the project, my first question actually on our list was our favorite album from 2024. And I'm not sure that I was clear on this when I reached out to you guys about this, but I don't necessarily, it doesn't need to have been released in 2024, although it can definitely be. But if you discovered something in 2024 that you had previously not discovered, then put that on the list. If it was your favorite, is your favorite. And this is just me copying out of trying to participate in this because I'm, like I said, terrible at listening to new music. So like my favorite album is probably Hamilton. It's not. It's not 2024. The Last Airbender soundtrack from Netflix. I spent a lot of time listening to that, or the Deadpool and Wolverine soundtrack. Those are my choices because that's all I got. I couldn't name you a new album. So let's do it. Let's get into the 2024 talk and start off with the favorite album. Tom, you're the guest. You go first. After having listened to 200 plus, almost 300 albums, what was your favorite album you listened to in this year, 2024?
Yeah, so I chose all 2024 albums. And so for everything on the list that you gave, I have honorable mentions. So I'll give the honorable mentions, then I'll give you my top,
Love it.
which when you when you listen to 200 albums, it's really hard to come up with a favorite, but some 2024 albums really stood out. So I'm going to start with probably the most famous album that came out in 2024, Taylor Swift's Tortured Poets Department. That album, just as a whole, we put it on. It just, I don't know. It maybe some of it's because I just think of my girls when I listen to it, because we listened to it in the car on the way and when we were on a trip, my whole family and I. So I love that. But I do find some of those songs from that album in my head from time to time. Another album that came out in 2024 that I can't believe I'm passing on as my top choice is Only God Was Above Us by Vampire Weekend. It's so Vampire Weekend. And I just love those guys so much. Hippie rock is probably the way I describe it the most, but lots of just very primal drums, guitar, vocals. They're just wonderful and I love them. And their 2024 album was just out of this world. This one was my top until I really kind of looked through another list, and that was Blue Electric Light by Lenny Kravitz. Quintessential Lenny Kravitz. Just, you turn it on and you're like, okay, this is Lenny Kravitz. You recognize it. You hear it from the beginning. It's soulful. It speaks to you. It's, have a drink with it. Go for a walk with it. Sit in a dark room with it. You can do anything with Lenny Kravitz music and it puts you into a certain mood. And that album, Blue Electric Light, does not disappoint. But I think my top album for the year comes from probably one of the most popular singers, one of the two most popular singers out there right now, if you say her name, you only think of one thing, and it is a musical, Colby, but that's not what this album is. The name of the album is Eternal Sunshine, and the artist is Ariana Grande.
I will say that I am very proud of myself because I know most of those artists. I was about to say all, and I caught myself. But you mentioned Vampire Weekend, and I know a few of those songs, and I know that I'm familiar with their music. So if I didn't know that they released an album in 2024, but now I know what I'm going to stop listening to Hamilton for, because I'm literally pulling up my YouTube music to show you guys that this is what I was listening to, Hamilton. And Caleb's like, "Oh my god, I will listen to the Vampire Weekend album starting tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do." That's fantastic.
I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I love the variety that you're inspiring me to listen to other stuff. There,
Thank you, Tom.
Um,
You bet.
who wants to go next with their favorite album?
I'll go.
I know what these guys are going to say. Both of their albums are going to be Kendrick Lamar. I'm just calling it right now. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Who's got it?
So, do you know how to host
Spoilers.
a podcast, dude?
No, I'm still learning.
So, for me, I do have some honorable mentions. I think had it not been for, like you said, Kendrick Lamar, this would have been my favorite album of 2024. I did all stuff that released in 2024 as well. Dark Times by Vince Staples. I had never really listened to much of his stuff, just sort of few of his bigger songs. But this song released, and I saw a lot of artists that I like talking about how good this album was. So I figured I'd give it a listen, and it's really good. It's one of those albums that, it tells a bit of a story about who he is as a person. It doesn't really follow anything like a specific storyline, but it's a very good album, and it's a pretty quick album. It's probably around 30 minutes. So I just throw it on, and it's not an album that you really have to listen hard to understand, but it's a really good album, and I really like it. But yeah, GNX by Kendrick Lamar. It's, Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite artists of all time. And then to have the year he had, followed up by that dropping an album like this, and then having a world tour the next year in like 5 months. I don't know how you can top that for me.
And the Super
And
Bowl.
the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's halftime show for the Super Bowl, isn't he? Yeah, he's had quite a year. His year is so big that his stuff even hit my radar, and that was because the kids wouldn't stop talking about it. And so my wife and I are driving around listening to Kendrick Lamar going to breakfast on a Saturday morning. and
Which is definitely a choice.
It is a choice. Caleb, what do you got?
I'd like you to do me a favor and just edit and copy and paste Luke so we save a little bit of time. Because I was going to say that Dark Times, great album, very short. I actually looked it up. It's 35 minutes. So it's a very fast story versus it's 13 songs in 35 minutes. So that's a very short album in terms of
Wow.
like everything else. Another album that I will give its honorable mention because it is almost like a guilty pleasure for me. And I can't have Tom being the only one listening to like teeny bopper type music. I don't have daughters, so I can't say that's my excuse. But Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish, I think is very catchy, and it's like different kinds of music. It's not the most basic, but can be if you just listen to it on a surface level. I think her and Phineas just like talking about the way that they produce music and just like seeing their like the intricacies to all of it, I think is really awesome. But my top album, and I genuinely need to look at the numbers because we're always being tracked with all that stuff through the music apps now. I genuinely think I've listened to the album in its entirety more than I've listened to any other music, and it came out a month and a half ago, and that's GNX by Kendrick Lamar. It's just a crazy fun album if you like want to get into it like that, but it's also very angry at times. And then I will save my next sentence for the next portion of the conversation, but artistry in its raw like form is Kendrick Lamar to me.
So I listened to one of your shows, your more recent shows, and I wish I could tell you the topic that you guys were discussing is before Skeleton Crew came out. It was the show that, but you both were talking about Kendrick Lamar on
Yeah.
that show. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to listen to a Kendrick Lamar album because I don't know that I know anything about Kendrick Lamar other than his name. Please tell me I put in the wrong album because I struggled to have any connection with it. So, but GNX is going to be on my list. But I pulled out his, and again, it was just a random shot. I pulled out his 2017 Damn album. And guys, tell me what I'm missing. Or tell me that I need to listen to GNX and that'll solve everything because I'm willing to do that.
Damn is a very, I would say Damn and GNX are honestly pretty similar. So if you didn't really like Damn, I don't think you're gonna like GNX very much because those are sort of angry albums where it's sort of angry at the world and it doesn't have a very positive outlook. That's more of a gym playlist, right? That's not a go for a walk playlist.
Okay.
So you definitely have to be in a certain kind of mindset because, like, for me, if I I'm very careful not to throw those albums on when I'm about to go work with kids, right? Because it'll just make me angry. But
maybe it was the
yeah, no,
5:30 a.m.
it's not quite that. It's
Fair.
definitely more gangster
Fair.
rap, but not all of his stuff like that. Not all of his stuff is like that. I know his album "To Pimp a Butterfly," it won. I always forget the name of that Pulitzer Award.
Yeah, Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, that one. It's a lot more. It's less gangster rap. There's still a little bit of it, but there's that one is a lot more centered around. It talks a lot about topics of the state of the world and politics and socioeconomics and stuff like that. But as far as like the actual music rather than the lyrics, it's a lot different than the production is very different than Damn and GNX's. My personal favorite Kendrick Lamar album is Good Kid, Mad City. That is more gangster rap, but that song is probably, when you think of telling a story, it follows the story of him going out with his friends who go rob a house and do bad things because they were bad kids in a bad neighborhood, and their friend gets shot in a drive-by shooting, and every song progresses through that. And it's another album where I wouldn't recommend listening to it at 5:30 in the morning, but it definitely tells a story. But if that's not your taste in music, I definitely wouldn't blame you for not relating to it, because honestly, I don't relate to it either. I've never been shot at before, so he has. But I don't relate to it, but I definitely appreciate it.
Well, in 2025, I'm looking forward to this conversation again, where I can tell you that I really, really got into his stuff. Especially, if he's going to be on the Super Bowl, he's the
Yeah.
Super Bowl halftime for 25, right?
He is.
So, okay, I got to find a way to love this guy. And I respect you guys a lot, so I know there's something there. I just have to give it a little bit more. And yeah, I will not try 5:30 a.m. I'll do like a Saturday afternoon when I have to clean the house. How's that?
Probably better. If you're looking for
Yeah.
something that ease you into it a little bit, listen to the Black Panther album, because he made the Black Panther album, and that was made a little bit more for bigger audiences that aren't necessarily hip hop.
Okay. Now, okay, I know his work now. Okay. Awesome.
So I'm really glad Luke got to take the heavy lifting answer, because I'm going to try my best to not get the same responses I've gotten all my life, because I sound like my dad, I look like my dad, I act like my dad sometimes. So I'm going to try to sound a little different. But when you don't want to change goalposts, right? So it's hard to sit and have like a favorite artist and have to say, no, you sort of have to have this and this and this, because then that just dilutes the actual value and the actual greatness that can be the artistry. So I think if you just sort of sit back and let the story be told to you, and I was trying to avoid storytelling because I feel like that's the number one word my dad uses for the podcast.
Well, this is the
if you
place
just
for
listen-
community and conversation for pop culture and storytelling.
There you go. If you just try and listen to the story that's being told, I think that's my favorite thing about rap in general, and why I have such a disdain toward like the just almost like bubblegum version of rap where it just sounds like
Right.
rap and it's just like whatever, right? Exactly. So if you just try and listen to the story without any preconceived like ideas of, okay, Caleb, Luke, and Colby, they really like this artist, let me try and like it, I think you just sort of got to buckle up and just listen to the story that's being told, because he is one of the few artists I find that has a cohesive like beginning to end story being told in every one of his albums, whether they're released on like streaming services or they're just like still quote unquote underground because they haven't been officially released.
Awesome. Great advice.
So the Colby cast is now a Kendrick Lamar fan cast. So tune in next week when we.
It always has been. You just didn't know it.
Sure, sure. It sort of has been. So you know what?
Secretly.
I'm going to move us to the favorite song category of 2024 because I am telling you the God's honest truth. My favorite song of 2024 is "Not Like Us" from Kendrick Lamar. So
Wow.
may or may not have been influenced by those last 5 minutes of conversation, but that's what it says on my list. That's what it says on my list, and that's what I'm going to go for. So, let's take a break for a second from K Dot Talk and get Tom's favorite song from 2024.
Okay. So I have two honorable mentions. They come from two of the albums that are my favorite albums. It's hard to have a favorite album without not having a favorite song coming off of those.
Sure.
So, off of the Ariana Grande album, Bye Bye, that song is really just a ton of fun. Off the Taylor Swift album, the album namesake song, Tortured Poets Department, that's the song that probably resonates the most in my mind as far as memory and just appreciating. But my favorite song of the year, I just discovered it just recently, and it is like the opposite of everything that I've done in 2024 of listening to full albums. I found this song on Instagram Reels, and it is, and I'm going to say the names wrong, so you guys help me out. Is it Rose and Bruno Mars or Rose and Bruno Mars? The APT. Is that even how you say the name of the song?
I'm furiously trying to unmute my mic. I love it. I love it. Yes, Rose is her name. She's from Blackpink
Rose.
and Bruno Mars. Absolutely banger. It's such a banger. Such a banger. That song is everywhere. I love it, and I'm sure the kids hate it, but I love it. It's so catchy.
Yeah.
We should do a TikTok video, Tom. You and I doing the ATP dance.
We're in. Best way to ruin the show. No, I'm with you on that. It's a very catchy tune. I love the music, the shifts in music, that definitely are to me anyway, inspired by Bruno Mars' musical style. And to be honest with you, I'm thankful that there's something else that they're playing of Bruno Mars than his stuff that's been around for several years. And I hate to say it, but I was really getting kind of tired of it. But now I don't have to listen to that anymore unless I want to. And I got a new song by Bruno Mars that I enjoy listening to. It's fun, it's catchy, like you said. So I think when I think of 2024 singles, that's going to be the song that sits in my head.
I want to start singing so bad right now. So please, Luke or Caleb, can you start talking?
Hurry.
Well, I won't.
No, stop. Let him sing. Let him sing.
No.
I will intervene. My honorable mention would be "Like Him" by Tyler the Creator. It's there's not a ton going on in the song as far as like lyricism and stuff. But it's a song about how his father left when he was a kid and he never knew him. So it's him asking his mom, do I look like him? Do I act like him? In reference to his father who was absent from his life, and the production quality in it, it's incredible. It's heavy and it's sad, but it's beautiful. I love that song. And then I won't go too deep into it because I'm sure Caleb will. But my favorite song is "Euphoria" by Kendrick Lamar, which is 6.5 minutes of double entendres, triple entendres, and quadruple entendres, absolutely tearing apart one of the biggest artists in the world, who I've hated for the past 8 years. So for me,
How do you really feel?
it was, that song was like Christmas morning for me, because it was, not only is it all the things I like in music, which is, I really like rap, and the rap quality is incredible, but then the lyrics are top notch. I love good writing. I'm always complaining about writing, and the writing's incredible. The production's great, and then it's also tearing apart one of the artists I dislike the most by the artist I like the most. So it checks every box for me.
Dare I ask who the artist that he
Drake,
tears apart is?
that Canadian.
Tom, I think it's so. This actually is what got me really in, because Kendrick Lamar has been around for a long time, but it never really hit my radar. But the occurrence of the last year with that song and the whole diss track fight that they got into over, like, what was it, July or August, summertime? I will tell the God's honest true story. True story. Luke drove up and parked in our driveway one night and sat there for I can't tell you how long, maybe 20 minutes. Sandra and I are sitting on the couch watching probably a K drama, and Luke comes busting through the door and he goes, "Do you remember the night that Tupac died?" And we're like, sort of, like, we remember how he died and all that around him. Fast forward to, like, I don't know, 3-4 months later, and this whole beef with Kendrick Lamar and Drake was just another, it's like a reincarnation of the Tupac and Biggie fight that didn't end with people shooting at each other, or so far has not ended with people shooting at each other. So yay us, maybe as a society we've gotten a little bit better, but these two people have such a huge beef with each other, and it goes back to the days of, like, the Tupac and Biggie rivalry. And I'm just like, wow, this is, everything old is new again. So, and then that's when I started to listen to this, the song that they're referencing, Euphoria. It's just fascinating to me. I didn't understand any of the references he's making, not one, not at all. It literally took driving in the car with Caleb and Luke and them telling me, this means this, that line means this, that line means this. And I'm like, oh, I get it. So it's not for public consumption. Like, I'm not sure you're going to get the references. I didn't get them. But it's like going back to that 90s rivalry with Tupac and Biggie. Hopefully this one ends more peacefully. But yeah, it's just fascinating to me. The whole thing, just fascinating to me. So I think maybe we're going to hear a little bit more about it from Caleb. Luke, was that your
Yes,
last
it
one?
was.
Caleb, the mic is yours.
So just to go around a little bit, Tom, do you know who Jack Antonoff is?
I do not.
Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift are pretty much like this besties. He's a producer and does a lot of the production for her newer albums, her Taylor's version and whatnot. He produced this album, this newest Kendrick Lamar album. So that will show you how much, like, skill and thought and production value there is if you just take it from face value from Taylor and pass it on to Kendrick. And it's completely different, but it's just the same quality, same value that you're getting. So that's pin one. Pin two, I don't know if this song came out in 2024, but I listened to it for the first time in 2024. It's by Teddy Swims. It's called Lose Control. And the first time I listened to it was on TikTok, and I thought it was just some street artist. It was actually him in, like, almost like his blow up moment, going up to some random street performer who was singing his song and doing it justice, because, like, anybody can get I don't know the word, critical or just, like, protective of their artistry or whatever they do, and if they don't think someone did it justice, they can be a certain kind of way. That just goes for anybody, a celebrity or not. He just came up to him and just started singing with him, and, like, he immediately recognized Teddy Swims and was just absolutely moved, and it was an amazing like duet of the same song. And then I went and listened to the actual song, and was like, it was one of those moments where it was like, do I listen to the studio version or do I listen to this one that I saw on TikTok, because they were both so incredibly amazing, and I cannot recommend the song enough because just it's a great story being told in it, but he's just such a talented and powerful and raw singer, that that's why it's made it to the list. Again, I don't know if it came out this year, but that it came onto my radar this year. Another one by Hosier, another very powerful artist who came on my radar years ago when he was just sort of doing like a publicity stunt where he and his band were singing in a subway in New York, I believe, or maybe it was, I don't remember. It was a major city, and his voices reverberated off of these like subway tiles, and it was just so amazing. It was almost angelic. So that was like my entry point to Hosier, and his newest album, the song is Too Sweet, and it's sort of hit the radio waves and just taken care of everything that it's needed to taken care of in terms of monetary going into his wallet. But it's just an amazing, amazing song. And then my actual favorite song, which had 75 listens in its our YouTube music recap as of what was that, like a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I've listened to it 100 times since, is Euphoria again, and it's because it's un too many syllables, unadulterated hate toward Drake, and it's just amazing to see how slow it starts and how it's literal like surgery, and it's like the most precise thing that you can hear, and it's just like you're rocking your head back and forth to it because it's catchy, and then by the time that the song ends you're like, I miss so much going on in this song, that it's like 7.5 or 6 minutes or something like that. It was like, I miss so much. I need to listen to it again and then again. And you're enjoying different portions of it at different points. But again, it is not something that you should be like, I'm bored. I need something to lift my spirits. It's going to make you want to run through a wall, and it's going to have Drake posted on the wall and you just run through it. That's it. But like Luke, I have been a very, very big fan of Kendrick Lamar, and for him to just pretty much it's easy to hate, but it's hard to hate with the truth, and he sort of does that, which is kind of crazy.
Who knew we were going to tap a well of anger so deep in our episode today?
It's interesting because there are two words you put in one sentence that normally don't go in one sentence, that just is absolutely um, fascinating to me. And that was beauty and hate.
Right?
Kind of all went together in one concept and idea. And I am so intrigued to listen to this, um, to pick up on that. So that's cool. That's really cool.
Well, then
And with that,
next year we will come back and we will have a series of discussions about Euphoria and or GNX. Euphoria is not on GNX, right?
No.
Okay, that's like a single that is not on GNX. Is an album that came
Correct.
later. Okay, thank you. See, I know things. At this point,
I don't know that Tom's gonna want to be back on an episode with us, but I think he might be on an episode with you after listening to it.
Tom, we can still be friends. We can still be friends. At this point, I'm going to ask a question for the group because I want to be cognizant that our wonderful guest is in a time zone that is much later than the time zone we are in. I'm having a terrific conversation. Are we good to keep going other areas of 2024, or are we going to make this a musical recap of 2024?
double thumbs up for me.
Oh, okay.
But it's up to you guys.
Caleb, Luke, we're good to keep pushing forward?
I'm good to go.
Okay, well, good. I feel the same way. So we got through that. That's the musical portion of the show, only an hour, 20 minutes long. Now we're going to get into sports.
Yes.
What?
Another brief conversation.
This should go very quickly. What was, Mr. Gross, what was your favorite sports moment of 2024?
Oh man. How do you do that? How do you do this? Okay, I'm just gonna toss some honorable mentions out there. I won't talk about them because I think they're very likely could be on your lists, but I just want to mention them because they're definitely on mine. In no particular order. Honorable mentions for favorite sports moment of 2024: the Josh Allen touchdown triple crown, 3 games in a row. Statistically impossible. First game where he throws a touchdown pass, he throws a pass that's a touchdown pass, but he scores the
Lamar
touchdown.
Cooper.
And then he had 3 passes and 3 touchdowns, and then 3 touchdown rushed in the next game, and then he had 2 and 2 in the third game. Shohei Ohtani's big 50-50 day, 6 for 6. Let's see. Saquon Barkley's reverse hurdle. I mean, come on. For me personally, Detroit Tigers returning to the playoffs and sweeping the Astros in round 1. But for me, the top sports moment in 2024 was Caitlin Clark breaking the NCAA scoring record with shoot, I forget. It's I think she had 14 games earlier than the person who had established the current record.
Unreal.
They did it in like 139 games, and she did 126 or something like that. And on top of it all, on that game that she broke the NCAA scoring record, she scored 49 points, which is a career high for her as well. She is the athlete of the year for me.
100%. The money she brought into the WNBA and the eyes she brought, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in sports.
Just the entire spring that women's college basketball had because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, right? Those were the two. Everybody loves a rivalry, right? You can have a phenomenal athlete, but it gets to another level when you have a phenomenal athlete with a rivalry. And they had just a great rivalry and a wonderful expose of their sport this past spring. Yeah, so I'm on board with all that. I am,
And not even just the athlete portion of it, but the human aspect where she made it almost as long as you can go in the NCAA season to go and within weeks get drafted, go through all the press stuff, go through training camp, and immediately start the WNBA season in that short of a time frame.
Yeah.
I think is just incredible for her to continue to perform the way she did.
what a whirlwind. And I do want to let you know, Tom, you probably know this already, but first of all, Caleb and Luke, the fact that Tom, not only a Detroit Tigers fan, but actually a Chicago Cubs fan, put a Dodger on his list, hats off
Yeah.
to you, sir. But you really can't deny what Shohei Ohtani did. That's just something else. And I'm thinking that maybe another Dodger highlight may be coming up down the road here. But Tom, you're not alone because you're not outnumbered. I'm a Dodger fan. Caleb is a Dodger fan. Luke is not a Dodger fan. So you guys, you guys can team up in case Caleb starts to get a little bit too much with his Dodgers love. With that said, Luke, you want to go next with your highlight?
Yeah, I'll actually dip into the Dodgers. One of my highlights in sports was going to a baseball game over the summer and watching the Padres beat the Dodgers in the 10th inning. They were down 5-0. They went down 5-0 at the top of the ninth, or top of the first, actually. And then they came back and they won the game 6-5 in overtime, which was great. Seeing that in San Diego was awesome. That's all I'll say about baseball because that's where my knowledge of it stops. My favorite sports moment was not watching the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, watching the Oilers lose in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final.
Okay.
That's on my list too. Absolutely. And the way you said it, Panthers, fantastic. Congratulations. But watching the Oilers lose was so much more fun than watching the Panthers win. Please continue.
No, that's it for me. Those are the only.
Yeah. Oh, that's your list. That's your list.
I mean, I've probably watched more sports
like
this year than any other year in my life. I got really into basketball and football, which I have never really been into. Even watched a little bit of baseball, just a little bit, and then watched as much hockey as I always do. So the fantasy football really helped me get into football as a whole. So that's been football has been incredible. I've really loved watching it.
The fantasy football, we had a couple. I mean, I cannot
Yeah,
take any credit whatsoever because it was all Luke. But shout out to Leo in Florida.
yeah,
He put together a wonderful fantasy league, and Tom, our teams run by Luke, of course, not taking any credit. Yours, run by you, had a couple of epic confrontations. Very,
we
very
did.
good weeks, very good close games. So, tip of the hat. Thanks, Leo, for putting that together. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can do that again in the future because that was fun. That was cool.
That was a ton of
Yeah.
fun.
Caleb, the floor is yours. Go, Dodger guy.
So
I know there's going to be others. There's going to be non Dodger stuff because somebody had a pretty cool experience in the summertime. We'll see if that gets brought up, huh?
no, I feel like I have to bring it up just because it's my personality now, and you guys have to sit through it every single time. So I'm just gonna take as long as possible, use all my lung capacity to get through it. But I'm gonna just reiterate how amazing it was to see Connor McDavid crying on the bench and not want to come accept the MVP of the playoffs award. That was incredible, all-time hater moment for us. That was fun to see Matthew Tkachuk raising the Stanley Cup and all those guys who'd been around the league for such a long time. That was awesome. Seeing Florida winning their first championship ever. Um, and next, I will go just Dodgers winning the World Series. I don't care if they bought it or not. A win's a win's a win's a win. So haters can just keep watching. That's fine. Then I'm going to use all my lung capacity now talking about the Olympics and how incredible of an experience it was to be able to attend it in a foreign country, first time going and having like a big boy experience just away from family, just my girlfriend and I going to France and one, enjoying the live events, but two, seeing the melting pot of cultures and how busy the city was at different times, getting to experience it with other people who have never been in the country or even in the continent like I had. Um, but also being able to root for her family member who competed. I don't know that there are a lot of people who can do that. It's one thing to have like a favorite athlete, but to know the person personally was a unique experience, one that I can't even like fathom the words to one have my gratitude to be able to attend this person's events, but to appreciate the insane talent and the insane hard work that goes into these athletes trying to perform on the highest stage. Um, yeah, that was really awesome. And then now, just reminiscing from all that, I forgot my number one.
Did it have to do with the Olympics?
No.
Did it have to do with the Dodgers?
Oh, Freddie meet Gibby. I think that call was an all-time, just from a sports broadcaster's point, was incredible. But that point in history, seeing Freddie Freeman, who should have retired a Brave, now being like solidified in history as a Dodger and the first ever walk-off home run, grand slam, I should say. I just think seeing that live was awesome. And then just to go back, the real life aspect of literally just screeching onto the street, pulling into the driveway, door already opening, to Walker Bueller taking the mound to win, like to clinch the World Series. I think that was just incredible. And I think the way I felt in that moment was like I was actually like partaking on the mound because my heart rate was going crazy. I was sweating. I was jumping around. It was amazing.
That was a fun atmosphere. Go ahead, Tom.
Those I just these all these sports moments are incredible, and I knew that hockey would be big for this conversation. So I appreciate all the comments there, but I have to go back to the Olympics, Caleb. May I ask what the event was of the individual you knew?
Absolutely. Her name is Abby Weitzel. She has won gold and silver. I think it was her third or fourth Olympics, and she did swimming. She was the
Okay.
women's national team co-captain with Katie Ledecky. So I
Mm.
think just to be hand in hand as captains with literally one of the greatest swimmers of all time, I think is amazing. And to know her and knowing how great of an athlete she was, and that doesn't even like that the character of Abby just overshadows the athlete so incredibly that there's no words to describe how awesome she was. And then within that same summer, we also went to her wedding, so it was a great summer for her specifically.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yes.
The Olympics is one thing that I've always wanted to go to. But international travel is difficult, and there was a there was a year, or there was a time when Chicago was on the docket as being a potential choice, but I think we actually lost it to LA that particular year, or Atlanta. I don't remember, one of the two. But just to see, I can only imagine what it's like to be around greatness everywhere you go. The greatest athletes in the world in so many different venues and sports. It's just got to be. I mean, to me, I think it would feel a little overwhelming at times. Just all the stuff going on. Does it feel that way? Like, do you feel the sense of the urgency of all the sports around you?
It's very easy for me to take a step back and sort of have like not necessarily
Mhm.
an out of body experience, but to just take in the magnitude of everything. So because of that, I never really felt overwhelmed by it. Never felt like I just need to stand still and take a deep breath by any means. But just I wish I could bottle up the feeling and just the entire vibe of the city, regardless of whether you were in the main part of Paris or in the suburbs. Everybody was happy. Of
Mm.
course, there's inherent crime anywhere, but it felt like everybody was there to have a good time and to support each other and to just help strangers not be strangers. I don't know how else to describe that.
The spirit of the Olympics,
Exactly.
right?
Uh,
That's amazing.
I will add one moment because Luke, you hit the Oilers losing, and then Caleb, you talked about Freddie Freeman, the walk off, which was just. I mean, I remember Kirk Gibson with his walk off when I was a child, and then almost sort of to relive that moment in real time. Not just watching a highlight, but like we were watching those games, and that was an unreal moment. I remember getting text messages from our nerd friend group, Tom, like Greg
Yeah.
McLaughlin and Mary Purdue, who are big baseball fans.
Mm.
They're even texting me knowing they're not Dodger fans. Like that was an unreal moment. And it really just was. The Olympic moment that I want to bring up though was it's a series of moments because it's all centered around Tara and Hunter Woodall, who are track and field athletes who are married to each other. Tara won gold in the long jump, and then Hunter won gold later in the 400 meter in the Paralympics. And he was there, of course, he was there for her competition. She was there for his competition. And the unbelievable energy that these two people had and the support that they showed for each other and the very obvious love that they have for each other was just so wonderful. And not only the Olympic feats that they produced and the athleticism, but the unreal cheering for each other was just magnificent. There was a lot to remember about the Olympics. That those moments centered around those two were just highlights for me, definitely. All right, well, I'm so proud of us. We got through the sports, relatively quickly. That was some pretty focused conversation. I love it.
Absolute power! Yes!
That's going to do it for this part of the conversation. Look out for part 3 coming early next week, where Tom, Caleb, Luke, and I go over our favorite TV shows, favorite movies, and personal highlights of 2024. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. You can find the Colby Cast on Instagram, Threads, and X at the Colby Cast. Episodes can also be found on YouTube, so like and subscribe. If you feel so inclined, rate and review our show on your podcatcher of choice. That really helps the show beat the algorithm and helps us find new friends to add to the conversation. If you're wordy, like me, you can send an email to thecolbycast@gmail.com. All music is licensed through Adobe Stock and performed by Pro Music 24. This podcast is not endorsed by anyone or anything for that matter. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Colby Cast unless otherwise indicated.
That'll do, donkey. That'll do.